Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today on this episode of BAEP Talks With. It's a discussion with a person of interest who has experience living with, managing, treating, and or supporting others with a chronic menstrual health disorder. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Julia Mandeville. I am the co-founder of the Barbados Association of Endometriosis and P.C.O.S, and I am your host today. Today, we are joined by Mr. Kamal Clarke, who is a program assistant in the youth department at the BFPA, formerly the Barbados Family Planning Association. Kamal is a 29-year-old youth advocate and a Women Deliver Youth Leader alumni. He got his start in sexual and reproductive health and rights education as a member of YAM, or the Youth Advocacy Movement, BFPA's youth arm. During this time, he educated students and other youth on the importance of good sexual decision-making, as well as understanding one's sexuality. Kamal has represented the BFPA both regionally and internationally, sharing the importance of comprehensive sexuality education, which we'll kind of summarize to CSE during our conversation, as well as championing its inclusion in secondary school curriculum. Hi, Kamal.
Hi.
So, thank you for joining us. So our discussion today is going to be focused on the fact that actually during this week, the 20th of November is designated as World Children's Day, and UNICEF kind of designated as an annual day of action for children. And children in this discussion will be defined as persons under the age of 18. And so I wanted to have this conversation with you to introduce persons to the concept of a youth health advocate, and then delve a bit deeper into CSE. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Can you tell us a bit about the BFPA and then the youth advocacy movement?
All right. So the BFPA, formerly the Barbados Family Planning Association, is a non-governmental organization which it really just helps with, as it sounds, family planning. It gives information to persons in need. So we provide services, general healthcare, as well as specific services like gynecological services, sexual health services for men, for youth. Yeah, so that's what the BFPA is. And you asked about YAM as well?
Yes, I did.
Right. So YAM is the youth arm of the BFPA. So it is youth generally 10 to 24, but we usually see more 16 to 24. Those who are interested in being a part of the sexual health field, and we pretty much take the information that we get from BFPA and deliver it to young people. I try to get young people into the clinic and into being a part of BFPA as a whole.
Okay, which is really, really important. And we, the BAEP, has partnered with BFPA and YAM on several initiatives. And I actually, when I was younger, I was a member of the youth advocacy movement. So I'm very aware of the work that both entities have done. Why did you get involved in this type of work and, your advocacy?
So it's actually an interesting kind of long story. So I did psychology at UE, and close to my final year, a friend of mine who was involved with the BFPA, she told me that they were looking to start YAM again. So I said, okay, cool, I would come to the meeting, see what it's about. So after the first meeting, I was like, okay, it's cool, but I mean, I have school to figure out to look at, so I'm not sure if I could be a part of it. But then I just decided, you know what, let me just go. So that's how I kind of got into the movement, but how I got really involved in the youth advocacy. So part of BFPA, so BFPA is a member associate of the IPPF, which is the International Planned Parenthood Federation, and they usually have regional meetings. So the youth representative that was supposed to go to that meeting wasn't available. So they said, why not Kamal? Because Kamal is here, he's available. So they sent me. Inexperienced, new, didn't know anything. So I went to this meeting and I I was involved, like seeing all of the youth advocates from around the region, Latin America, the Caribbean, from North America, seeing how they were so like dynamic, they were like all into this, they were invested. It was really inspiring, and because of that, I got more into it and started my journey to being a youth advocate.
Okay, that makes that does make sense. So is it more social justice tied with reproductive justice, or is it solely reproductive justice?
Admittedly, it is more reproductive justice than social justice, but I'm getting more into the social justice. So in the times that we're in, it is easy to get swept up into a lot of different things that are happening. So a lot of different issues are arising, and I believe it's important to have a focus, because if you have a focus, then you can speak more deliberately to those things instead of having like scattered information from a lot of different things. So my field is more sexual health, but I still lean into social justice in some instances as well.
Okay, thank you. So as a youth health educator, what are the main goals and objectives of your engagement with young people?
All right, so my main goal is for young people to make informed decisions. So we are in an era of a lot of misinformation, fake news, we're hearing all that all this time. And talking to young people, they spread that misinformation quickly. So my main goal is to at least educate one person, so that that one person can take that information and spread to their friends and then spread onwards. So that's what I hope to do. In addition to that, like having persons more like me. So when I was in secondary school, when I was going through puberty, I was one of those persons who didn't get the talk, any of that kind of sexual information. And I know for sure it impacted me in secondary school. And I know it impacted the decisions I made in secondary school. So if I can prevent other young men from making the same bad decisions that I made, then that would be fantastic for me as well.
Okay, and this month is actually Men's Health Month as well.
Yes.
Are there any initiatives that are also like addressing these types of concerns you've raised within, boys during this month, or is it only focused specifically on men, 18 and up?
As it relates to boys, I am not exactly sure, to be honest. Like, I would love if there were more initiatives that targeted young boys, adolescent boys. That would be amazing, because I believe that they need that help, and it would benefit them as they grow up as well. But I am not personally sure.
Right.
I know that there's a men's group that is affiliated with BFPA as well, that they deal with that sort of stuff.
Right.
And I believe they also deal with boys. And I know Fabian Sargent does a lot of work with boys as well, for sure. But as in overall initiatives, I am honestly not sure.
This is might be an opportunity. You never know.
Yeah.
So with that being said, then, what are some of the most pressing youth issues you've seen in your work? And then the secondary question to that would be, are there any gaps that you have identified that need to be addressed?
Pressing issues. So whenever we do sessions with adolescents, a glaring issue that we see is poor self-esteem. We see poor mental health management in general, and is getting worse and worse as we start speaking, as we go along year and year. We start seeing the younger ones, and then in the age of social media, where everything is out there and like news is just bombarding you all the time. And yeah, so that is one glaring issue that we start to see. And the self-esteem and mental health issue then trickles down to then my field, which is sexual health, because we have persons who then seek validation in other persons, and then persons using their poor self-esteem to then manipulate others into sexual behaviors and that kind of thing. So that is one of the biggest issues that we see when we do our sessions. And as it relates to the gaps, like when we look at the fact that the school system has usually one or two guidance counselors maybe for an entire school. We don't have that many social workers working within the schools, even though social workers want to get into the schools, but there's no system in place for them to be in schools. So that is one thing. So they don't have that that grounding for therapy, for counseling within the school, because for sure one guidance counselor isn't going to be able to counsel an entire school body. So that is definitely one of the gaps that we see there when it comes to that.
Okay, I know you work with outside of the BFPA, I think there was another program that is usually put on at the start of the school year. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Are there any initiatives within that program to at least try to tackle some of these issues that you see?
So there are two programs that we have worked with that dealt with the transition into school. So there was one for the class 4s going into secondary school, and there was one for the first formers who have just been in secondary, so just came secondary school.
Right.
So for the one for the primary schools, I know that there are guidance counselors that are involved with that. So if we're doing sessions, there are problems that arise within the session. So we flag something that a student said, or we can see that the student is in distress about some topic, then there's guidance counselors on hand that can then go to them and talk to them and try to get them through it. And that is fantastic. Right. That's one of the great things about that program. That is the in the Winner's Circle program that's put on by the Criminal Justice and Research Department, Research Unit, I believe that's what it's called. But yeah.
Okay.
So that one definitely works in that sense.
And that happens island-wide then?
Yes. Usually, well, in the past, it was done in zones. So you will have like the southern schools one year, then like the central schools another year. But thankfully, they have been able to expand in the past year. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we were able to do it this year, how we wanted to do it. But last year, we were able to go island-wide and get all of the public schools involved.
I think having a program such as that, the way you described it, and it's not just talking about like sexual and reproductive health, it's talking about all of these.
It's talking about things like drugs, it's talking about stress, it's talking about actually the transition into school, so the kind of things you need to look forward to going to school, that kind of stuff.
So it was extremely it is as comprehensive as it can be, at least, right?
Yes. Okay. Very much so.
I'm happy to hear that, and I hope that it would be something that can be sustained.
Yeah, let's just hope.
Yeah,
it's all about funding.
But I mean, we've learned how to be innovative during this year. That's a plus. So hopefully we can kind of integrate that into that program and it can move forward. But I'm happy to hear about that. So I know CSE can be very contentious. And I'm hoping that you could help us maybe address some of the misconceptions persons have about CSE. And again, CSE is Comprehensive Sexuality Education. So, any misconceptions, and then what needs to be said to address those misconceptions.
All right, so from what I have gathered in our battle with trying to get CSE out there, is persons hear sexuality and they automatically think negative. They automatically think, oh, we're trying to push gender identity and homosexuality and all that stuff on people's children. And that's not the case. Persons also look at CSE and then they look overseas and see what people overseas are doing. And that's also not the case. So when it comes to CSE is comprehensive, yes, but it's also age appropriate. It's also culturally appropriate. So we're not going to take something that America is doing and then bring it directly to Barbados. Right. We shape it in a way that it relates to our audience. We shape it in a way that it is comprehensive to and is, as I said, age appropriate. So certain things that we would say to a 16 or 17-year-old, we won't say it to an 11-year-old. So we would give them the information, but in a way that is appropriate for them to hear. Right? So they won't be missing out on the knowledge. They just won't be getting the explicit details.
Right.
And and also people believe that it's just all about sex, but that's not the case. So CSE is comprehensive, as I said. So it deals with things like puberty, it deals with self-esteem, bullying, yes, sex. So it deals with relationships, it deals with all of it. So it pretty much everything that you would need growing up, the kind of information that you would need to develop as a human being is taught in CSE.
Good. That's good to hear. So with that being said, I had another question. I just slipped my mind, but that's okay. I have a written question, and then see if I can remember the other question. So you mentioned puberty in CSE, and so again, because this is BAEP, I'm also going to ask about, is menstruation, menstrual health, menstrual cycle, is that taught in the CSE programming that you do? And then is it taught in such a way that both boys and girls get this information, or is it a situation where, you know, we split into the, you know, into these two groups based on assumed gender, and then, you know, you teach based on what you assume this particular gender is supposed to know about this, what's the word I'm looking for? This process, for lack of a better term.
Right, so that's an excellent question. Before, we didn't really focus on menstrual health. So we do talk about periods and that kind of thing within puberty, obviously, because it's a big part of puberty. But we used to never get really that involved in it. However, recently we have actually added a section on menstrual health within the curriculum itself. And with the training that we have received from the Barbados Association and some P.C.O.S, we also have members who are trained in delivery of that information, because it is one thing to talk about menstrual health, it's another thing to deliver it in a way that wouldn't like freak out people and that kind of thing, so that they are calm in understanding what could be an issue. As it relates to separation, we don't really believe in separation. We believe that all this information is necessary for both boys, girls, whatever you identify as, because at the end of the day, while girls are the ones that will be going through the issues, boys still have to be involved in that sense, because the girl in your class is going to be affected, and that can affect you. So you need to know what is happening with her, your sister, your eventual wife,
maybe even your mother,
anybody, even your mother. So understanding the issues, understanding that it is not just something that they're faking, understanding that it is real, both parties need to understand. So we don't believe in separating them. But however, there are cases where teachers would ask us to separate the groups, and if we're invited into a school, then they're the ones setting the rules, so we would have to to take it that way.
Right, and that's understandable. But is there a situation where they provide a space to maybe allow for discussion as to why it might be more advantageous to, at some point in time, maybe not when y'all are coming, but maybe at some point in time, still have a space to have, you know, this discussion in a I don't know, co-ed environment?
In my experience, I haven't seen that. I'm not sure if that has changed recently, but any times I've done it, if there was separation, it was just straight separation.
Right. So I guess this is, one of the barriers that, I don't know, for lack of a better term, that you encounter. Are there any types of barriers that you have encountered, I guess, as an educator, and then maybe from the organizations? Well, I don't know if you could speak on behalf of your organizations, but maybe some barriers that you would like to have addressed, and some that you know of from the organizational standpoint that should be addressed again throughout the.
One of the biggest barriers that I can think of, the fact that usually when we go into a school, it's because we're invited by a teacher, by a guidance counselor, by a principal. and they generally have an idea of what they want spoken about.
Mm-hmm.
And they oftentimes don't want us to go beyond a certain parameter, because then they could get backlash from parents and that kind of thing, and they wouldn't want that. So that is intense. That is an intense barrier, because then we have to then be extremely specific of what we say. I do remember that in the same program that I mentioned earlier in the Winner Circle, there are some private schools that get involved, but obviously they need permission from parents, stuff like that. And there are parents that have already said that they don't want their children in our session specifically. So that is one of the main barriers that we have there. Organizationally, a barrier that I can say for sure we have, there's like lack of volunteers. So if we don't have the manpower, we can't deliver the sessions efficiently. There's funding, of course, because we have stuff like equipment, and if we have persons having to travel far distances, like from St. Lucie to St. Philip and that kind of thing, it would be better to have some sort of remuneration for them. So that is another barrier as well.
So if anyone out there is listening and you are looking to maybe add some volunteer hours to your, I don't know what happens, I know there are volunteer programs, or if you want to maybe see how you could support BFPA and I guess YAM and all these other great entities Kamal's working with, you can reach out. I will provide Kamal's information at the end card so that you can reach out and help them with, this great work that they have been doing. I guess the last question, this actually leads into my last question. What are the types of trainings and this type of support that the youth advocacy movement /YAM, what are the trainings and support that are provided by this organization to young persons in Barbados, and then how can they get involved?
Okay, so we do capacity building workshops. So we do things like public speaking, we do proposal writing, we do facilitating in general. So like teaching you how to teach somebody else, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So
those are
capacity as well then. So it's building up your capacity.
Exactly. So we can train persons and then get those persons to then train others. And then in that training, they're actually becoming facilitators themselves. So that is a lot of the stuff that we do. Within the scope of our partnerships as well. So we've had partnerships with Red Cross. So we have some volunteers who are trained in first aid. So with that certification and the Red Cross's permission, we can also do first aid training. We have HIV workshops, so specifically for teaching HIV, for learning about HIV. We do a lot.
Okay.
And to get into to reach out to us, you just need to send us an email. That is yam@bfpaonline.com. Or you can visit us on Facebook or Instagram and message us there. That is YAM Barbados on both of them. So easy to reach.
Okay, great. And if you didn't catch that, I will put it in the end card. Do you guys still? Well, I know with COVID, meeting in person is probably a task. But do you have maybe not meeting in person, but do you still do Zoom calls or anything like that at this point in time?
Yes, we do. We used to go every Friday, but then we switched to every second and fourth Sunday.
Okay.
So right now we are trying to find a good blend of in-person and digital meetings.
Right.
But yes, every second and fourth Sunday. For more information, contact us at the same places that I mentioned earlier, and we can just start it up.
Okay, great, and I appreciate that. And the membership age range is again from 10 until 24. 10 until 24. Okay, and again, that encompasses what we're talking about when we're talking about World Children's Day and children being up until 18. Do you have a lot of people I know you say it's generally from 16, so you have a lot of 16-year-olds.
Used to. I think our youngest member right now is probably 18.
Okay, so if you are looking for an organization that will help to build your capacity, and you are looking for a supportive group of young people, your peers, you can again check out the youth advocacy movement. Again, I got my start there and I'm very thankful for the work that they are doing. Thank you so much, Kamal. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience today? Any information you want to share? Any other requests? The floor is yours.
No, I think I pretty much covered it. The social medias are there. We have been posting a lot on Instagram recently, so you can check us out there. We did have a TikTok, but TikTok seems to be flagging a lot of our sexual content, so we'll see if we can find a way around that. Right. But yes, right now we are located on Bay Street at the Barbados Family Planning Association clinic, which is opposite Copacabana, right before the lights. So contact us. You can call us at get through to me by calling the clinic. That is 426-2027. If you need any more information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamal. Thank you all that have joined us today. Again, really appreciating all of the work of the BFPA and Yam and Kamal specifically. So until next time, bye.
Bye.